So I'm super excited to announce to everybody that SpoilerCon registration is now open. It will be open from June 15th to August 15th. If you happen to be listening to this in a time-shifted manner, those are the dates we're talking about. This is 2021. This is SpoilerCon, reintroduction to your society. Your ideal society in particular.
Yes, so the con is going to be held October 1st through 3rd in Portland, Oregon. We are planning currently to have a hybrid in-person and digital event, so that way people who can't make it to join us will be able to enjoy some of the con, while those of us that are able to rejoin our IEL societies can do so in person. Registration in person will be $120 and only $10 for the online version because tech does still cost something to run. You can register at spoilercon.org/registration. You can also follow us on Twitter at SpoilerCon and subscribe to our newsletter at bit.ly/sconnews to get updates.
And this is going to be an incredible SpoilerCon. I think just the excitement of everybody getting back into the real world and seeing each other, I just know people are going to have a great time. We have Michael and Kramer and Kate Redding coming back. They will be attending remotely and doing their usual reading and Q&A that we've had at every SpoilerCon so far. Last year we had a lot of success bringing in our guests remotely digitally, so I think we're still going to have a fair number of those guests attending remotely, and that will be streamed out to the digital folks. So other things we have going on, obviously we're going to be doing some podcast live recordings. There's that walking tour of Portland. There's going to be a silent auction for everyone online. We're going to do both an in-person costume contest and an online costume contest, trivia challenges, and just hanging out with our fellow nerds. And, maybe a couple of surprises. The SpoilerCon committee is still working on a few things.
Yeah, we've had a lot of success in past years, and we're very excited to build on those successes, use what worked before, and add new things. So stay tuned to our social media and get hype with us, because this is happening.
Yeah, we are super excited. For a while it was a little tentative, but with vaccines rolling out really strongly in the US, we're able to go ahead and have this event in person, which is super exciting. We are going to this year be having it at an actual hotel and conference center, so no more Airbnb. No more being packed in next to the party while you're trying to sleep. We're actually able to get your own hotel room. So it's the University Place Hotel and Conference Center. It's on 310 Southwest Lincoln Street in Portland, Oregon. If you are reserving a room, enter the promo code SpoilerCon, and you should get a very good rate for those nights.
Yeah, we've got a whole room block set out. A lot of work's been done to make sure that that is going to be affordable and friendly, so that way we can keep the party all together. We really, really hope to see you there, either in person or online, because this is going to be fun. We're really excited about what we're building.
And there's a lot of great information at spoilercon.org. Check it out. Any FAQs you may have, extended information, it's all there on the website.
Or, contact us in Discord and we can get hype about that at any time.
Or email us at spoilercon@gmail or watspoilers@gmail. We're there listening and waiting for your calls. Emails.
Calls, emails, texts, Instagram posts, whatever. We'll be excited. On all of our social media, you will be able to find us at SpoilerCon. We have streamlined and made consistent that labeling. So if you look for SpoilerCon on any platform, you will find us.
Look forward to seeing you there.
This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast.
Today I have joining me, again, LezbiNerdy, and actually I should say still instead of again, because technically we are recording this about 20 minutes after we stopped recording the previous episode. Again, Aradia is still not with us. She has not rejoined us in the last 20 minutes. Although, depending on how late we go, she may pop her head in if she gets back from her meeting. She did say should be finishing up right about now, but then she's got to get home and everything like that. So we'll see. We're going on to chapter 22, and it's a bit of a continuation of the previous chapter. So we figured we'd just sit down and do them both in one night.
Sounds good, yes.
So happy to have you with me. Last chapter was great. I didn't ask you if there's anything you wanted to plug at the end of the last chapter, so I'll give you a chance now. Is there anything other than your YouTube channel, which is fantastic, that you'd really like to plug?
No, just my YouTube channel.
Then plug your YouTube channel. Plug away.
All right. I have a YouTube channel with just my name, LezbiNerdy. I do feel the need to say this because I did not think about this when I made my YouTube name. If you are searching for it, put the whole name in YouTube. Don't just put in lesbian and hope that you get those results, because you will find yourself in a world of lesbian erotica. And that is, I lesbian erotica is lovely. It is not my YouTube channel. So, you know.
Do you have a problem with people getting distracted and just like they forget to get to they like search lesbian and then stop, and then 3 hours later like, wait, what was I doing?
I don't know, because if that happens they don't come to my channel. But
Fair enough.
I did, yeah. That was reported to me early on, when somebody was like, "Oh, I was trying to find your YouTube channel and I just kept finding porn." I was like, oh. Did not, like, it just didn't even occur to me. I literally was going for the pun of, "Oh, let's be nerdy."
Let's be nerdy. Yeah.
Yeah. So, whoops.
For a while, I learned about Leslie from
Leslie is stuck on Arrakis.
Stuck on Arrakis. Thank you. Yes. And so at the same time that I heard about LezbiNerdy, and for some reason my mind said Leslie and LezbiNerdy were the same person.
Right. That makes sense, actually.
Yeah, and then Aradia went on Stuck on Arrakis a few times, and I was like, "Oh, you went on LezbiNerdy's channel?" She's like, "No."
Yeah.
I went on Stuck on Arrakis, and I went, "Wait, oh, they're different." And so over the course of the last few months, I have occasionally referenced the wrong person. So yeah, names are hard, man. Whether it's porn or mixing your name up with Leslie, like it's definitely doable. But yeah, so. The whole point of that story is search LezbiNerdy, nothing else.
Yes.
Not Leslie, not lesbians. I think that's yes.
Yes, I'm trying to think. What other words begin with les? Les miserables.
Les mis.
Yes. Sorry.
Yeah. Don't look up the play about the French.
No. It's LezBI, lesbi, like that. LezBI.
Nerdy, Nerdi.
Yes, or DY, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, that would have been fun to do with the II thing.
Yeah, didn't think of that. No. Nothing. It literally was I'm just going to do this because I've been thinking about doing this for so long. I'm just going to do it. And I didn't think of any of these things through when I was making my YouTube channel.
Yeah, Watch Spoilers wasn't exactly like the most inspired thing. It wasn't like it was like, damn it, it's got spoilers. What are we calling it? Mealtime spoilers.
Yeah.
Just, but the spoiler, it's been a working brand for me. Mm-hmm. Same thing. There wasn't a lot of thought that went into it. It just sort of came to me and I was like, yep, that's what we're doing now.
Yeah.
So today we're doing chapter 22, Small Sacrifices. Our symbol is the Flame of Tarvalin. What are the small sacrifices? I don't really get that reference.
I'm assuming it's like just having to say thank you and sorry.
I guess I wouldn't really think of that as a sacrifice. So,
yeah, but the way that they are thinking about it, I feel like it is.
Fair.
Yeah.
Just like crawling to Matt to apologize type situation. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Which like we're going to get into it, but they're making it so much bigger than it is. Right? Like, which I don't know. Yeah. You put yourself in a situation where you have to say thank you or sorry and you don't want to. Mm-hmm. I mean, as a teacher, as I'm saying this, it's ridiculous. I've, as a teacher, been like, say you're sorry, and it feels like pulling teeth sometimes.
Oh yeah. Admitting you're wrong is so hard to do. Our own bias about who we are is caught up in being right all the time. We are good people, we are right, we do things because we are right, and if we're wrong, that means we could make mistakes, and can't admit that, right? Like, just curious, do you have a book in front of you?
I have my ebook in front of me.
Would you be willing to read the first 2 paragraphs and do a read-in for me?
Okay, sure. All right.
I didn't prepare you for that at all.
No, you
I sprang that completely on. That's why you could definitely say no if you don't feel like reading. But I would love to get your voice on these 2 paragraphs if possible.
All right, I'm just going to make sure that it has paragraph breaks so that I can do this, because sometimes the ebook does. Okay. All right, so small sacrifices. Squinting up at the sign above the inn's arched door, a crudely drawn woman with a walking staff, peering hopefully into the distance. Elayne wished she were back in her bed instead of up with the sun. Not that she could have slept. Mulhara Square stood empty behind her except for a few creaking ox and donkey carts on their way to the markets, a scattering of women balancing huge baskets on their heads. A one-legged beggar sat with his bowl at the corner of the inn, the first of many who would dot the square later. She had already given him a silver mark, enough to feed him for a week even now, but he tucked it under his ragged coat with a toothless grin and waited on. The sky was still grey, yet the day already promised to scorch. Keeping concentration well enough to ignore the heat was a problem this morning. The last remnants of Brigitta's morning after head remained in the back of her own, dwindling but not yet gone. If only her small ability with healing had not proved too small. She hoped Avienda and Brigitta would manage to learn something useful about Carradine this morning in their illusion disguises. Not that Carradine would know any of them from a shoemaker, of course, but it was best to be careful. She felt pride that Avienda had not asked to come along here, had in fact been surprised at the suggestion. Avienda did not believe she needed anyone to watch her, to make sure she did what was needful.
So my first thought is that this beggar is Old Cully.
Ah, okay. Although I feel like you think every beggar's Old Cully.
I do. Well, only because in the previous scene, Millie Skane was told to contact Old Cully and send the beggars out after Matt. So
right.
I feel like he should show up here in a minute.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I think the band that tried to kidnap him, Matt in the last group, was just his minions.
Okay.
But I think he is absolutely sitting outside
of the hotel.
At the
inn.
one, right? The inn.
The hotel.
The Holiday Inn.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, just waiting for Matt to come out.
Just waiting for Matt, because he is described, the one thing we know about him is he is a one-eyed man with no teeth. We don't get a description of this beggar's eye, and he said he's one-legged, but that could be deceptive.
Anything, yeah.
Yeah, and so, but he doesn't have any teeth, which is a match.
Right, okay. It's very possible, yeah.
And it makes sense for Old Cully to be just out there on lookout, checking things out. And it would make sense why he didn't leave after getting a bunch of money.
Silver mark, yeah.
Because he's not there to beg, he's there to watch.
Yes, but also, like, if you are a part of the Beggars Guild, you wouldn't leave. Like, you put the money that you get away so that people don't think you have money, so that you keep getting money. Like,
also true.
Yeah. But yes, but I think it's very likely that this is Old Cully. You're right.
It is a stretch because there's the whole one-legged thing that, like, he doesn't necessarily have one leg, but, like, we see that, like, beggars fold the leg under creatively to make it look like they only have one and they don't actually only have a leg. Like, that's a pretty common thing. So I'll admit it's a stretch. I'm not, like, there's no absolute proof, but the matching detail of a beggar with no teeth in the right place in the right time. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
We get a clue about the fact that hangovers are susceptible to healing because Elayne thinks she could do it if she just wasn't crappy at healing.
Yes, yeah. And of course Nynaeve is too worked up about this apology to be angry enough to heal.
Her emotions are interesting, that, like, she needs to be anger, and sometimes she can be emotional, but it's not anger. It can be anxiety or worry or fear. And all of those things don't let her change.
Yeah, it has to be anger. I think this is a whole other thing, but, like, the whole women have to surrender thing is a problematic issue for me. But anger, I think, is an emotion where she feels like she is in, like, anger is an emotion that drives you to action, right? Like, it gives you, like, I'm so angry, I want to do something. So it pushes her to that point. And I will say, like, her being able to hold Saidar while angry feels way more akin to Saidine. Like, she wrestles it. It feels so much more akin to Saidine to me, but
definitely.
Yeah. I honestly had a theory when reading this, like, before I kept waiting for it to happen, that at some point Nynaeve was going to, like, even before she, breaks through her block, I thought that was the thing that she was going to do. She was going to figure out that you could grab Saidar the same way men grab Saidine. And it was going to be a whole thing of, oh, men and women aren't as different as we think they are. Like, they are different, but it's not the same. Like, women are not naturally surrendering and submissive, and men aren't naturally aggressive and dominant. Like, I thought that was what the story was leading to.
Some way where the fish can actually teach the birds to swim.
Yeah, and there's overlap. Like, even, maybe most women, it's easier to do it this way, but not every woman, and you can do it that. Like, I thought that was going to be the revelation. That was going to be part of the healing of the world.
That would be pretty cool. Yeah. that land, if you're looking for the one united power, should have just used the one power in a slightly different way, not gotten into the true power.
Yeah.
And that would have been the actual way. I like that idea, that there's a different way to seize the power. Especially, Nynaeve's whole, like, how can she be angry and be surrendering is always just one of those weird
It's very
contradictions.
weird. Yeah.
It's like, she's so angry she forgets to be in control.
Yeah. It still feels like it's yeah, I don't know. It still feels weird to me. It's yeah. But anyway, yes. So she cannot heal. That is the point of all of this at this point. Yeah. I go off on too many tangents. Sorry.
Not at all.
Especially if they're about Nynaeve. I love talking about Nynaeve.
Question about Nynaeve wearing white.
I was about to ask you that. I literally my mouth was open to say, what? Okay, she is, like, for Nynaeve, it's a funeral dress. What is Elayne, like, is it what you wear when you are trying to broker peace? Because she, like, right after her next sentence is something about, this would be a disaster if they could not keep peace amongst themselves. It's the next sentence, which I don't know if those two thoughts are connected, but it's the only thing I can think.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, like, the white, I will not apologize, Nynaeve said suddenly. I won't. You should have worn white after all.
Yeah.
Why does the expression, her being like, I'm not going to apologize, when she's already agreed to apologize, why does that make her say you should have worn white?
I cannot.
Novice whites? She should have put her in novice whites. That's what it is. It's gotta be referenced to novice whites.
Okay, that makes sense.
I was trying to make it white aja or funerals, but no, I imagine it's mostly she's acting childish.
She's okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
You should have worn white after all because you're acting like a novice.
Yeah. Okay. Because I was trying to make it like, oh, is that like an Andorian thing of I'm going to try and negotiate and wear white to show that I want peace? Like
I was doing the same sort of mental gymnastics.
Yeah.
But novice whites. She's acting like a child.
That makes sense.
That's where I am with that.
And Nynaeve caught it. That was that suspicious glance. That was Nynaeve being like, what? And
I don't want to hear about the rest of us bullying you. So you agreed, so stop sulking. Nynaeve sputtered, eyes going wide with outrage. Sulking? Like, that's that sulking, childish thing. Yeah, totally. And then, there's no need to be so hasty. Okay, Loyal. She's trying to stall.
Yes.
I saw that and I was like, there's no need to be so hasty. When did Loyal get into this chapter?
Loyal
like,
just
that was
showed up
such
in the
a
corner.
catchphrase.
Yeah.
Such a catchphrase.
From the corner. Hello.
And then Elayne immediately is like, did you choose the bitterest herbs that would work this morning? Which is just totally catching her and being morally superior for no good reason, right? That, like, yeah, she'll help your hangover, but she's not going to heal you, and she's going to give you really, really bitter herbs to make you pay.
Yeah. That Nynaeve is canonically, like, she does not like drinking. Like, I don't think we ever see Nynaeve get drunk, and every single time somebody gets drunk, she, like, it's a thing for her. It's she sees it as depravity. It's like, a lot of things where Nynaeve is being judgmental, I think it's her just, like, maybe it's a headcanon thing, but it's her just being like, I don't get it. Drunkenness, I think she gets. And I think she just always hates it. Like, she's like, I don't think she's like, I don't understand that. It's like, oh, you're drunk. Like, that is one of those things where I do think she thinks she's superior because she doesn't do that.
And whenever she's superior, she thinks that people deserve punishment, and that often is foul-tasting brews that she makes them drink, and that's her punishment when she feels better and morally superior. Yeah. And this is Elayne pointing out, do you think you're morally superior? Because you're acting like a child right now. Yeah. You know, like, you made a decision to prove that you were better than us, and now you're whining and acting like a little baby? No.
Yeah.
That's not okay. Yeah. So they end up at the Wandering Woman, which is, of course, clean, because Satelle
Anan is amazing, yes.
Amazing. And,
question for you just about Satelle Anan. Did you figure her out? Like, how long did it take you to figure her out? As an ex-Aes Sedai, former Aes Sedai who got burnt out? And
I don't know, to be perfectly honest. That's one of those things where I probably didn't give her a second thought until I was reading stuff online. And you know, it's one of those things where I probably didn't even think of her as anything more than an innkeeper until I read just I thought she was what she said she is, right? Because I didn't read her own opinions critically. I believed her when she's just an innkeeper with connections to the kin. I was like, okay, yeah, sure. She's local fixture, whatever. Like, she has an inn. She's met these women.
Yeah.
That's how she knows them. You know, great. Moving on.
Yeah.
Like, I never critically thought about it probably until I read
Until you read
these.
Stand Up in Line. Okay.
Yeah.
As for me, I will say I didn't figure it out until reading online. I knew there was something went from when she put on the IDOM, and there was something weird that happened. And I said, okay, then this woman knows, because she had known too much about being in the tower, and then she put on the IDOM, and it wasn't like she couldn't channel her. The reaction was wrong, like there was something wrong. So anyway, I'm curious about that, because obviously I then that's when I went online and was like, who is this woman, and saw all the theories and put stuff together. But
well, and this is back when, again, I was 16 when I read this book, right? Like, this is Crown of Swords was probably the last book. Like, book 1 through 6 had come out. I read them. By the time I finished book 6, Crown of Swords had come out, and so I read 1 through 7 in one go,
right?
And then I was stopped. And I did, and so my initial ideas of 1 through 7, I don't remember, because that was all just a blur. And I reread and reread them so many times, and read the Watt Fac and all that kind of stuff back when I was 16, 17. Like, I can't tell you what I thought. I wish I could. I wish I could recapture that, like, first reread.
Yeah, me too. That's one of the reasons that those new reader podcasts are so fun for that reason. But yeah, I don't remember. This one I remember looking up because it kind of, I was confused, but yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I was curious about what you thought. Okay.
Yeah, and part of that is just as a teenage boy, I only really cared about the male plot lines.
Right. Okay.
I skimmed the shit out of these chapters the first time, when I was a kid. Like, I just didn't really care about the girls as much, and that's a significant change as I've gotten older.
Yeah. I was like, while I also had the same thing where I don't remember who I liked or didn't like the first time I read it. I know the first time, like, I think it was the first 4 books that I got, like, when I finally was able to get them together. But it was the Rand story, because Rand is the protagonist and that's who the story is, right? Like, that was, you follow the protagonist, and
totally
that's So I had the same thing. It wasn't a male or female thing. It was he's the dragon, so he's who you care about. And why are there so many chapters about all these other people? Like,
right.
Yeah.
And that's where it's just a different kind of fantasy.
Yeah, exactly.
You were saying Nynaeve never got drunk. There was the one time when Theodrin got her very drunk. And
yes, that is true. That is true. But that was, for an intention. And it was not her thinking, I'm going to get drunk for fun. It was...
no, but she definitely was only going to drink 1 cup and ended up drinking a lot and ended up...
And then crying.
Yeah. And that was the one bad experience they
That's right, that they both had. Right, okay. Yeah.
Just a real-time correction I remembered.
Okay.
So then the girls are led up by Kyra to the bedroom, who, again, makes
not
a comment
pleased, yes.
No, make a comment, we get that gilded woman again. I think we both commented that stood out to us.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons is it happens twice.
Yeah, maybe that's it, yeah.
And gilded is, of course, was Brigida's hair.
Yes.
That's what we decided,
Which makes perfect sense.
And Nynaeve, of course, assumes that he tried to aggressively flirt and she didn't want it, when the opposite is true.
I think that Nynaeve assumes that because she sees him with women, so she assumes that he's, like, always pushing himself. I think that part of, like, that's her, for me, that would be like being like an older sister, of just, not realizing that your younger brother is really attractive, and so you assume that he's doing something. It's just like, there's women all around him. What is he doing? Like,
how is that dirtbag getting women? He must really be doing something sketchy. And all the women are like, no, he's actually very cute and attractive and funny, and he's got money. And yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
they walk in on Matt's room. I love the boot on the washstand.
Yeah, I love that too. I was going to comment on that. It's just, that is drunk. Dressed. That's drunk logic of just
drunk logic. Absolutely. Yeah. Got home, took off 1 boot.
Yeah.
Put it on your bathroom sink, and then passed the fuck out.
Yeah.
Love the drunk logic there.
Yes. It's great.
And I love how grossed out she is about it. She's like, you put the boot on the washstand? That's gross.
Yeah. Yes.
A little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's why we don't put our feet with shoes on them on the kitchen table.
Right.
It's gross. But yes.
And Ebudar's muddy, and there's horses, and there's horse shit, and...
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. Yeah, I didn't even think of that. So,
medieval boots are gross.
yeah. I like to think, though, that the Wheel of Time, because it's like a sort of future thing, that it smells better. That they figured out, like somehow in the Age of Legends or whatever, they figured out about smells, and that knowledge stuck around. That's just my imagination, because I don't want to think about all the smells.
Go hang out in the Riad. It's called the Perfume District for a reason.
Okay, the places that are canonically stinky, they can stink. But just in general, our characters smell nice. That is my headcanon.
So where in the series did they invent deodorant?
In the Age of Legends. And then somehow that knowledge survived the breaking.
It's an herbal thing. It's an herbal thing. We just assume that the wise women dispense herbal deodorant on a regular basis.
Exactly. Or everybody has do you know this? It's a weird little quirk. If you ever want to move to Korea, advice for anyone, bring deodorant. Because about it's a very high percentage, like over 95% of Koreans have a genetic mutation which makes their sweat not stink. So if you buy deodorant in Korea, it is basically lotion. And I discovered that the hard way, like halfway through the day of being like, what the hell? What the hell? I swear I put on deodorant today.
So my question is, which way is the mutation? The stinkiness or the not stinky?
The mutation is the not stinky.
Okay.
Yeah, because it doesn't just affect that. Like so it's not like a specifically targeted mutation. It affects like the enzymes in your sweats, so you don't get BO, and it affects your earwax. It's very weird. So Korean earwax has a different texture than non-Korean earwax, and then there's an enzyme that is not existent in Korean breast milk. In most, like more than 90 some odd percentage of Korean breast milk. So yeah. There you go. So that's what's happened in the future. Everybody has that genetic mutation because it doesn't harm anything and it just makes you not stink.
So when they say we stink, they mean it literally. It's not just like a diet. Because I've heard the whole Westerners smell like spoiled milk because we drink a lot of milk and it comes out of our pores and sweat, that sort of thing. But that would make more sense if there's actual like a body odor.
Yeah, well, that's
difference. Yeah.
It's why I tend to be very concerned about my scent because Koreans are not used to this BO. So if you have BO, to them it's just you just smell bad. Like in Canada, if somebody has BO, I think, oh, maybe they forgot to put on deodorant today, and I won't make a blanket judgment about them as a person. But if you just have a bad smell and they don't know why you have a bad smell, then you just stink. Right. So. Yeah.
Like Tiki Moon's bringing up fork root deodorant.
Yes, that's it. Fork root deodorant. And keeps the Aes Sedai away. Very nice.
Keeps the stink of channeling off of you. That's
Oh, you sound like a white cloak. Another question. How do you feel about using the term juicy to describe drunk?
I got juicy. Yeah, no, I mean,
You're okay with it?
I'm okay with it. Yeah,
it sounds so weird to me.
That's it's an older phrase. It's definitely like my parents' generation, but like, yeah, like I got juicy last night. Like that's definitely like I got juiced up. You know,
juiced up. I'm more okay with. It's like adding the Y to it's a visceral adjective that makes it.
Juicy.
Yeah. Yes, that's how I hear it in my head. That's how I hear it.
No. I feel like it comes from an old school slang where, and I'm making this up, but where like they referred to booze as juice. Like, hey, toss me some of that juice. You know, well, what happened? Well, I got juiced up. You know, like I got juicy. Like I feel like that to me is how I feel it evolved is from that slang of like, like you call weed pot, marijuana, you know, green, grass, whatever. Like I imagine juice is a slang, especially like during Prohibition.
Yeah, of course.
That like you didn't want to say like I'm drinking booze, so you drink. Oh yeah, I'm drinking juice.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
At one point it was apple juice, and then it got distilled and fermented and distilled.
Yes. All right. Okay. Cool.
And now it's apple cider brandy.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I like Elaine's reaction to Matt being hungover. She's like, well, at least he's more hungover than my warder.
Yeah, yeah, that little bit of weird pride that you have in things that like are completely stupid to be proud of, but you're proud of them.
Right.
Yes.
When you're like proud of people you're loyal to doing something like, but not necessarily like that impressive. It sort of reminds me of like being proud of your favorite sports team for standing up for like minority rights and being like, oh, I'm proud of you, but it's not what you're do generally. But like, yeah, I'm really proud of that. Yeah.
Although, like, this feels, because what you just said is being proud of something that's really cool.
Right. Yeah. I was trying to come up with like a good example of like something a sports, or like, what's a better idea?
Like, okay, your favorite actor, he's an actor, and then he like goes on a talk show and he raps really good. And you're like,
sure.
Yeah. Oh, like, it's cool. Completely pointless. Like, has nothing to do with your job, but all right, good. But the other thing I like about Elayne in this moment is her reaction. Like, I like this about Elayne. Her desire to figure out the medallion, like just her desire to figure stuff out is really cool. Not that, she's not going to take it and she wouldn't, but even like the fact that it's that moment of, I really want to figure this thing out. Like, that's awesome. Yeah.
Well, and what I really like about her is how that links her with Satelle Anan, right? Who we know was burnt out after studying Terangrial, right? She was the last real Aes Sedai to be burned out studying it. She was Martine Janta as an Aes Sedai. That was her name. Okay. And so it appears after about 40 years of studying Terangrial, she was burnt out.
Okay. Yeah, that's a cool link between those two. Yeah.
She was burnt out in 975, so about 25 years ago.
Okay. Yeah, this is a full-on headcanon, literally no relevance to the story, but Nynaeve's going to heal her in my mind, and I'm so excited. Like, I think about it sometimes where I'm just like, because Nynaeve's going to figure she figured out how to heal stilling, she figured out how to heal madness. I also assume she's going to figure out how to heal, like, the grief that Aes Sedai feel after their warders die, specifically because of Elayne, because Elayne is going to have that magical grief because of Brigitte, and it's pointless because Brigitte is okay, and so Nynaeve's gonna be like, nah, I'm gonna fix that, like, because I can fix that. I think she's gonna fix. Anyway, that's a whole other thing, but that's
they definitely say that burning out is different than
it's different than stilling. I think it's gonna be a completely different, like, it's gonna be a different thing.
Okay. Yeah. I kind of headcanon that's not possible. And, like, Satelle Anan has basically has moved on and has a new life and doesn't want to be Aes Sedai again.
Okay.
And I believe that Satelle Anan wouldn't
want it. Want it. All right.
That in order for her to have moved on and survived and become a stilled woman who's lived on, she's become a different person who doesn't want the power.
Okay.
That being said, if someone were to give it back to her, maybe she would take it. That's a tough thing. But I think she would have a hard time deciding.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, because she does have a life, but I don't know. The ability to, like, channel also would mean that she could live for several more 100 years. Like, it's not even just giving her back something.
That's true. Yeah, it's extending her life and everything like that. Yeah, and especially now that her husband's already dead, it's not like she would lose him. I mean, I guess children maybe she doesn't want to see her children die.
Yeah,
that's always kind of why I assume most Aes Sedai don't have kids. They don't want to outlive them.
Yeah, I can totally see that as a reason. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Because that's actually another reason. I also see that as a reason as why the Aes Sedai keep themselves apart. It's not so much that part of it, of course, is superiority, but also they live for several hundred years, so they see a bigger picture than everybody else. Like, I want, as a person who's alive now, I want things to improve during my lifetime in a specific way that benefits me, whereas they're like, no, I'm seeing like a 150-year arc that's going to outlive you, so I can't necessarily care about you because I'm trying to do something that is going to last for, like, living longer than people is.
But that's one of my biggest problems with the Aes Sedai. They don't enact very many long-term plans. They are very short-sighted. They should be working on things that are 300-400 year timelines, and they're not, and it drives me up a freaking wall that they're just not willing to change their approach to politics based on their longer lifespan.
I think that is Black Aja, though. I think that is Black Aja, like, because, they would have, like, Amerlins would die, or just, like, I think that is their plans. Any possibility would get thwarted by Black Aja, I think.
Mm.
But yes, okay. I keep getting. I'm so sorry.
No, that's no problem. Okay. So I have the apology from the girls to Matt,
yes.
and his wonderful, oh, don't worry, it was nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Nynaeve's reaction of jumping at him with clawed hands.
Yes.
And Elayne grabbing her and Matt not seeing any of it. I mean, the physical comedy there is just hilarious with Nynaeve and her physical comedy. Like,
yeah.
I'm not sure there's anything more to it there.
No, it's just Nynaeve not being able to control her emotions again. And it's great. It's absolutely great.
What do you think about his dismissal of their apology as, oh, it was nothing?
That is... Again, it's Matt being Matt. Like, it's the same as I'm not a hero. I just did a thing.
Right.
Like, it's that same attitude, which, like, it's talking about how much, well, in the last episode, but we talked about how much, like, Matt and Nynaeve both lie to themselves constantly. When he was drunk, I bet you he was like, man, it was so fucking hard to get into the stone, but now that he's sober, it's like, oh, it was nothing, because he doesn't ever want to, like, say that he tried. He wants to just pretend that he doesn't care, and he just does things, like you said, to stop babies from crying or whatever.
I was thinking about, actually, I made my girlfriend a pie, and we just had a pie crust and some stuff, and she's like, oh, can you make a pie? I was like, sure, yeah, I'll throw it together. And then she was like so happy and bragging to everyone. I was so embarrassed. I was like, I just did it because you asked. It's not a big deal. And she was like, I was like, it was nothing, and then she was like, why do you always do that? And I realized that I do, and one of the reasons I want to bring this up is I have this problem. Whenever someone's like, oh, what you did was great, I cannot take a fucking compliment to save my life, right? I can't take that is really what I feel like. It's not necessarily the apology, but the compliment that he doesn't want to take, right? Like, he just sucks at it. Like, he can't take a compliment, and that's really what it boils down to, is him being embarrassed a little bit. Even though he asked for it, right? Like, he didn't, and he needed that, and they should have thanked him, and that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
He's still embarrassed to be receiving the thanks.
Yeah.
And so he downplays it.
He probably only asked for it when he was drunk and he could admit that he wanted it.
Exactly. Yep, totally.
So now he has to deal with the consequences of his drunk honesty.
Question. Do you think the medallion works when it's hanging loose and not touching his skin?
I think it has. That's such a loophole that I feel like if it didn't have to touch his skin, then at some point somebody would have, like, because there's that. Does it happen before this or after this? I get so lost but like when the Aes Sedai are trying to figure it out and they keep doing stuff to him.
It happens both before and after. Okay. Because Adelius and Van Dien figure it out before this, but then there's other sisters that figure it out afterwards. Right. Specifically when he's with Tuon in the
in the circus, right?
Circus, yeah.
Yeah. So, like, if none of them, like, if it has to be touching his skin constantly, then one of them at some point, when he's, like, leaning forward to, like, get his soup, would have got it. Right. Like, because except it's that's really weird to me, because does that mean that there's a area of effect? Like,
yeah. So the way I think of it is maybe somehow the chain. Somehow but he talks about it as a leather cord. It's not like a metal chain or anything like that. So that is but
that is very, like, we are sciencing it instead of magicking it, right? Because like.
And the reality is, it applies to whoever's wearing it. Yeah. Whether that's, and it's smart enough and magic enough to just know who's wearing it is sort of my assumption.
I think that has to be it. Yeah. Because like I said, it, like, and I'm being really, really technical, but a medallion that you wear around your neck doesn't always touch your skin. It's impossible.
Definitely not. Yeah. It's constantly bump. I mean, just walking it bump. Bump. Like, Yeah. So the other question is, when he pulls it off and is fighting the golem and swinging it in a circle, is it effective then as a Terangrial?
It's effective when it, like, it's something, because when it hits the golem, it does something. But yeah, is it effective against him? I don't know.
If someone tried to channel at him while he was doing that, would it stop the channeling?
Yeah, I don't know.
If he wasn't swinging it, if it was sitting on the ground, could the golem pick it up? Would it be inactive then?
I don't know. Oh, that's interesting.
If he's not wielding it, if it's just a passive object, or does it just always have that effect? Like, and if it always has that effect, if it always cancels weaves, even when you're not wearing it, how did Elayne study it?
I always wondered that. Like, that's a
Yeah.
whole thing I always wondered, is how because she studied it and she made
Right.
like replicas.
So my headcanon is that when it's not being worn and activated, that the canceling effect is
Okay, that's a cool headcanon. I could never come to anything. So
and so then that would explain that, like, wearing it, that somehow it's got enough of a magic sense that its wearer is protected, even if it's touching your skin or not.
right. Okay.
Otherwise, it's such a obvious flaw.
Yeah, very much so. Like, though I fully scienced it, like, again, doing the whole
Yeah.
like medical thing, or like metal thing of, how we figure out what other planets and other solar systems are made of by like the colors that come. That's what I figured. Like, she would channel at it with various weaves and see that maybe they dissolve in different ways or something. Like, that's literally how I was doing it in my head. It's like,
Like studying the interior of the Earth by like hitting it with vibration and seeing how they like echo through it, and sort of seeing how the weaves get like break down.
Yeah.
And maybe fire, spirit, air, and water like decay at different rates.
yes, and like
'cause
combinations
they're
of them
yeah.
or something. Yeah.
You should definitely read Stormlight Archive then, because the last book gets into sciences the shit out of the magic.
Okay.
It's really like half of that book is them in a lab trying to figure something out about magic.
Oh,
right?
damn.
Like,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Like what was that, book 3 that just came out? No, 4. Book 4 just came out, and so that's like half of that book is absolutely science magic. I and like it is definitely polarizing. Some people hate it, some people love it. Like, I love it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know how I'd feel, because I love the speculating about it. And having the answers might be satisfying, but also might be, but then I just have the answers. So,
There's enough holes in the magic system. He created this ridiculous magic system that's just so big that he'll never be able to explain it all. There'll always be holes and things. There'll always be ways to combine different aspects of his magic system into a new, unique thing, because there's simply
so much of it.
so many different combinations that you can come up with. You know.
Okay.
So then we get the promises from the girls to Matt, which they don't keep in the slightest.
No, but he also over interprets. What word am I gonna, like, he interprets them as, you're gonna do what I say, which is not at all what they promised, but they also don't necessarily keep their promises. Although one of their promises that they made, I remember even like the first time reading this thinking, that's not, you can't, like, 'cause they're like, I'm not ever going to, what is it? I'm not gonna belittle you or whatever. Like, you're gonna, like, unless you never, people, that's how people interact. Like, I'm sorry. Like, if he does something stupid, are you supposed to be like, oh, I promised 6 years ago that I wasn't gonna say that.
Right.
Like,
And also the fact that we will not belittle or demean you in a way, nor shout at you for any reason. And then 2 paragraphs later, I won't shout at you, Nynaeve shouted.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's clear that they're not going to keep those promises.
No.
And within 2 paragraphs,
They
they're
don't keep
already
those
breaking
promises.
the first promises. Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
and that's a promise that Nynaeve wouldn't be able to keep, even if she had wanted to.
You're right.
Like,
Right.
that's just not, it's not in her personality. Like, it just reading it, it's like, Nynaeve, don't promise this. You can't do this. Even with anybody, like, even with somebody you respected and loved, as, like, you know, not with a status thing, like, where she was ever, like, even with anybody, she wouldn't be able to keep that promise.
Also,
just
promising
not-
not to put yourself in needless danger. Well,
It's the last fucking battle.
Yeah, that's what you do. You're
That's-
searching for the bowl of the wind.
Yeah.
No,
No, they're not possible. These promises aren't possible.
it is nice that she does finally keep guards with them. That is the one actual productive thing that comes out of this, is
Yeah.
they do have the Band of the Red Hand and their guards with them.
Yeah.
When the Golem attacks and the Black Aja attacks, and, like, I feel like without Matt and his army, they would have easily
died,
been
yeah.
overwhelmed.
Yeah,
Because, you know, the sisters walk in there and they do that whole thing where they offer Matt money. They're like, we're the real sisters. You should leave. You should abandon them.
Yeah.
And if they just had mercenaries, that they probably would have. They probably
Yeah.
would have lost that battle very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not to mention Matt is the only thing that stopped the Golem from slaughtering them all.
That scene was, it was awesome and heartbreaking. So many. There's a character in that scene. I think it's that one. No, it's later on. Sorry. There's a side character that has, like, a very little character introduction and development, and she dies, and it makes me cry every single time, because of the fact that when she's introduced, like she has this, I can be green, and so I have this hope, great hope that she gets to be green, and then she just fucking dies. And I'm like, no.
One of the kin.
Yeah, one of the kin. It's just gets me every time, and she's like barely in the book.
Right. Well, it's like, here's a character. She has hopes and dreams.
Yeah,
She's dead.
Yeah, yeah. So.
Nice try, hopes and dreams.
Stupid hopes and dreams. It's your own damn fault for dreaming and hoping. So. But yeah, no, it is good that they, like, what they should have promised, they should have promised to, like, listen to him, take his advice. Or not take his advice, take his, like, we will listen to you and allow you to have input. And, like, because that's a promise they could keep.
And they do. That's the promise they make.
That's the promise but, like, the rest of the promises are not promise. Like, that's what bothers me about it, is if you're going to promise, it's frustrating to me to, at the beginning, read these promises and be like, these are not promises you can keep as humans. Like, it's just not possible. So
yeah, and she says we'll listen to your advice.
Yeah,
and that's where they both interpret that differently.
Yes,
they interpret it as we'll listen to it, we'll hear it.
Yeah,
we're not going to obey you, but we'll hear it.
Yeah, and
he's like, oh, you're going to listen to me? You're going to do what I'm saying?
Yeah,
because that's what listening to me means, is you're going to listen to what I say and do what I tell you.
Right. So. That's a definition of listen that I am not a fan of. That's not what listen means. Listen means that I take in the information.
It's how my teachers have used it, though. Are you listening to me? You know, are you, like, parents use that all the time, right? Like, well, as they're like, I need you to go do this and this and this, and you're on your Game Boy or whatever.
Right.
Like,
okay.
Are you listening to me? You're going to do what I tell you to do, right? That's how I interpret that, like, how he interprets
it. Okay. Yeah. Like a parent.
Exactly.
Okay.
You listen to what I tell you to do.
Right.
Because he sees them as children.
Well, he literally uses the word minders, which, even like, I can't even imagine being Elayne or Nynaeve in that moment, because that would get my back up. Even like, yeah, no, Avienda and Brigida don't need minders. Like, that's a low blow.
And I love that. It's not sure which was worse, that he'd flung that offhand insult on purpose, or if he'd done so without realizing.
Yes.
And I think it's without realizing.
Without realizing. That's so much worse.
So much worse, yeah.
So much worse.
And we talked a lot about how Brigida, as a very male figure, doesn't need the minders, and that's something you didn't necessarily like. What do you think about Avienda being thrown into that category?
Avienda also, I feel like she's not as masculine, like, character-wise. Like, she's not as Westland's masculine. She's Aiel masculine, right? Like, she's that version of masculine and that. But she also has the culture thing. I've talked about this so much in other settings and forums, but there is this thing in the Wheel of Time where women can act like men, and they can become cooler, or at least, like, just change their. You don't get men acting like women. That just doesn't happen, right? You don't get men being like, oh, I'm gonna become a seamstress, or I'm gonna, look after the kids, unless, like, a orphan falls into their lap. But even, like, when an orphan falls into Matt's lap, he proffers the orphan off to women to take care of. Like, that, it doesn't happen. So basically, Avienda and all of the maidens are women doing masculine things. And it's just, it only ever goes one way. You don't see it happening the other way around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and with Avienda, she is, if not necessarily masculine, at least not very feminine. She doesn't know how to deal with men. She has never really considered them. Mm-hmm. Like, she is this, like, I think we talked about, she's just like in a frat, basically, a female frat. But, like,
she's in a female frat. Her way of dealing with conflict, is, I don't even want to say this is masculine, because it feels just Aiel, but it's an Aiel warrior way of dealing with it. I'm going to deal with it with violence.
And the way the women become Aiel warriors is becoming more like the men.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
They have a man's clan, a man's society, just like the rest of the men do.
Yes.
They fight with warrior values. And we even see that in Rand's flashback when the woman picks up the spear for the first time. Yeah. And, like, there's a little bit of, like, he cuts off the haft of the spear because she's wearing skirts and it'll get tangled, you know? And, like, it's like, well, what if you had her take off the skirts?
That would have worked as well. I would have, like, that's one of those ones where it's just like, or you could just say that she's shorter. Like, you don't have to make it, like...
Oh, yeah, that's also a good thing,
like, she's just shorter than, so she could have a shorter spear. But anyway, that's another.
Well, and also, like, once you cut the haft off a spear and you have a 2-foot blade on it, it's just a sword.
Shh, don't tell the
Like that's between the Aiel who carry the like 8 to 12-inch knives that are
belt
basically
knives, yeah.
swords, and the spears with a short haft and a long blade, which are basically swords, right? Like, yeah.
No. They don't touch swords. That swords are completely
okay.
different. Yeah.
Those are totally different things.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
all. Yep.
Yeah.
No.
Mm-hmm. Yes. It's a big secret. But yeah, okay. The other thing I wanted to pull out here, just because this, again, another thing that I've been talking about a lot, is Elayne's thought about being a sister wife. And she has this moment of, not that she has any intention of becoming a sister wife. The idea was indecent, but she did like her. One of my issues with the foursome romance is that the women don't want to be in this situation. They accept it because it's their best option and it's the only way they can do it. But it's not like any of them were like, oh, I'm polyamorous and I want to be in a polyamorous relationship and let me seek that out. Like Avienda of the polyamory, Avienda is the one that's most likely to want that because that is in her culture. But she had no desire to fall in love until fate told her, oh, you're going to fall in love. And then she fought it with every inch of her being and then gave into it. And giving into, like, a time where somebody says, oh, I gave into it, and then it takes away the, a lot of people love these relationships and I can't love them not because of Rand. It's not Rand's fault at all. Rand doesn't do anything to these women. It's Tavir and it's fate. But the fact that the fate just takes away the women's choice in it makes me go, I can't care. I don't care. Like, I'm sorry. Oh, you're really sad that he's not there? I don't care.
Yeah. The one thing I do really like, though, is that I had Elayne and Avienda being a couple. And, like, they are, when she says we're going to be sister wives, like, they're sleeping together at some point. Like, I had canon that definitely, like,
in
a
lot
the
of
course
people
of
do.
this. Yeah. And that's just, whether or not he wrote it that way, I'm just going to assume that that's what's going on, and that they fell in love during this period of time.
Now, you will be shocked to hear this coming from somebody whose literal username is LezbiNerdy. I do not. And the reason I don't, one of the reasons I don't, there's several, but one of the reasons I don't is because it feels to me that it's like still a male fantasy of, oh, he gets to have his 3 women and 2 of those sexy women are also having sex with each other.
Right.
And like I've literally had straight men approach me to have sex with their wives or their like, and they like, I won't be there. I just want to know that it happened. Like, I don't want to be like, I have no desire to do that. I don't want to be a part of your male fantasy. You can find somebody. No, I don't want to do that. So it feels like that to me. Plus, and this is just, because I do think that this might be what's going to happen in the show. And what worries me is there is a tendency to view, like in culture, to view lesbian things as not as serious because, and I'm going to get real crass here, no penis. Like literally there's, how do you have sex? That is such a common question because without a penis, people think it's impossible. And
because for them, sex is penetration.
Exactly.
Yep.
So between like, if Avienda and Elayne are getting it on and then they're both getting it on with Rand, their relationship is going to come across as secondary. Not just because of the tendency of people to think of lesbian relationships as secondary, but also because Rand is literally the most important person in the world. So that is I don't want to like.
No, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that's my reasoning for not, because I know people assume that I had canon that, and I don't, and those are my reasons.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, no, for me, it's more like there's in the text the fact that they like talk about sleeping in the same bed and missing each other when they're not there, and there's some familiarity in sharing to me that not that they have to be sleeping together or anything, but like I like that as a natural progression of their relationship. That like
I would like it if they were not with Rand. Yeah, I would like if that was not part of it, then I would be okay with it. Although I would not want them to go through the first sister ceremony. I was just about to say that's another reason I don't headcanon them, because the first sister ceremony is literally they simulate being in the same womb, and then it gets into an ick factor for me.
But sister wives are a thing in the Aiel culture, right? Like
sister wives are a thing, and sometimes they're real sisters.
Yeah.
And like, that's why I don't think sister wives necessarily have sex with each other, because that to me would be a different thing. It would have to have a different name, because you don't, unless the Aiel are okay with sisters having sex, you wouldn't want to get that confused. Like,
Right.
maybe, I don't know, maybe it doesn't matter to them, but I would never, like, I just think of, I can't even, I was about to say something and I can't finish the sentence because it grosses me out so much. Because I have sisters. You can imagine what I was about to say.
I can, yeah. No, it sounds, it would be the same thing about, like, me being like, oh, yeah, you want to sleep with brother? No. Why, I don't have a brother, but I don't want to, definitely don't want to sleep with him, whoever he is.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Or I guess more appropriate analogy would be me sleeping with my sister.
That would be, yeah.
Which
like,
I don't want
to me, for me, it's partially grosser because I'm a lesbian to imagine like, I don't have brothers, but that is somehow less gross to me because I don't want to have sex with men anyway.
Exactly. Yeah, I was saying, I'm like, I had the same thought where I was like, it's grosser to me to want to sleep with my sister than to want to sleep with a brother. Because I would never want to sleep with a guy.
Yeah.
Related to or not, but yeah.
Yeah.
That, like, that terrible trope of the mistaken identity where you're like, hey, check that girl's ass out.
Yeah.
And turns around, it's your, related to your mother or sister, and you're like, oh, God,
yeah,
no.
exactly.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
That's that feeling, yeah.
Yeah. So that's a non-political hot take. That's just a, like, no, if they made it in the same womb and then it just grows, like, any possibility of it just is, for me, it just melts away. I just can't get past that for me. But yeah, that's the other thing I want to pull out of this.
Yeah, and there's the same thing with, like, the whole novices sleeping together, where it's like, oh, they're in one family together, but then they're all kind of fucking. But I've also worked in enough restaurants where everybody's fucking, so there's a little bit of
people
are horny bastards, man. You put them in a small space together.
Yeah. What bothers me about that is not so much that it happens; it's that it's seen in, like, it's in the canon. It's described as that's just because they're young and then they'll get over it. Like, that's what
the young and not having any other options because they don't have freedom to go hang out with the men in the men's quarters. So of course they're going to sleep with each other.
Yeah. So, but once they're mature enough, they'll stop having sex with women. Like, that's sort of like, and the ones who don't are like Galena, who, not great. Elida, also not great. Like, it's just, there's not really any canon examples of somebody who just really liked pussy.
Right.
So, yeah. So anyway.
Mostly they had to hate men first.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh God, that's a whole thing. Yeah, I was ranting about this, I think, just yesterday, how many times.
You don't hate all men?
No! So I find it very frustrating, this idea that even lesbianism has to be defined by its relationship to the penis. Yeah. Like, it's just...
It's the same thing where Christians will say being an atheist is a rejection of the Christian God. And it's like, my atheism has absolutely nothing to do with your God.
Yeah. Right.
Same thing. Your lesbianism has nothing to do with my penis.
No. Specifically not yours. No.
Yes. Well, of men's.
Yes, I know. The personal possessive pronoun there just caught me.
I gotta throw a little spice for the listeners.
Why not?
Yeah, why not? Question, back to the books.
Yes.
I won't shout at you, Nynaeve shouted. With a cry, he shuddered and dropped the cloth, clutching his head with both hands. His eyes bulged. Flaming dice, he whispered. Is that the dice starting?
I think it,
because I thought they were already in his head from the night before.
I think this is them stopping, because it's him agreeing to go to the palace.
But I thought they stop a little bit later in the chapter. Why did they bloody well have to stop now? He moaned so softly she barely heard. What in the light did he mean by that? So that's when he agrees to move in.
Okay. Oh, I put those two together in my mind.
But they're actually 2 pages separate.
Yeah, you're right. This is my problem when I'm listening.
That's very good. Yeah. So I'm wondering if maybe they start now and then stop in 2 minutes later.
Maybe that's it, yeah, when he agrees to move in.
Yeah. Or it could just be that the dice are rumbling in his head and he has a headache, and the combination of that plus Nynaeve shouting and being hungover, it all hurts at once.
Makes sense. Man, it makes sense. I can't... how do you imagine... I don't know how they would do this for the show, but I also just... I can't imagine hearing just... is it like tinnitus? Just a dice roll tinnitus?
Just a low volume, low frequency... rumble, and you could amp that up and have that as just a background thing constantly, like, or incorporate it into the music. You know, you have the dice theme basically.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. It's like I like it as a narrative. It's one of those things, like, I like it as a narrative thing. I can't, when I try and think about it too much, I can't make it work in my head. Yeah. Anyway, so
looking back at I'm looking at the Watt Encyclopedia. These are the dice that started when he follows Cheyenne.
okay. Yeah,
and they've been in his head all night.
Right.
And they didn't stop when he met Brigida. They didn't. So there's a whole scene where he's talking to Brigida, and they won't stop, don't stop, don't stop, don't stop. They're still going in his head. And then in 2 pages, when he agrees to move into the palace, that's when they stop.
Yeah.
So this comment appears to just be them still rumbling and Nynaeve yelling, and the combination being painful.
Right.
Sorry, just a little follow up on that.
That's okay. The other thing, you asked at the beginning about sacrifices, and here I see later on that they're talking about sacrifices, where they say that when they're trying to get him to move into the palace, and they say we must all make sacrifices, and he's like, he says something like, sacrifices, if I asked you to make the same, you like. I think this is the sacrifice they're talking about, not the apologies. It's literally, it's Matt having to sacrifice his independence and move into the palace.
I think he's worried. I think the sacrifice is sleeping with the queen.
Well, that's his, but they don't know that. That's why it's called small sacrifices, whereas for him, it's you're pimping me out, basically. Right. Is what
it's basically, you're going to force me to sleep with someone I'm not interested in sleeping with. And if I asked you to do the same thing, you would absolutely be mad. If I told Nynaeve you had to sleep with somebody to protect me, she would not be happy about that. You know? Not
at all. Yeah. But again, they have no idea. So they think it's just a little thing. Like, we're just asking you to move from here to there.
Right. And give up some conveniences that you have, like the ease of sleeping with this serving woman who's clearly upset at you by we're going to save her by preventing you from forcing your attentions on her, when that's not the situation at all.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm glad that that's you pointed out the title, because I was having some trouble
figuring that out. Yeah.
They tell them all about the Bowl of the Winds.
Yes.
And I love the fact that just by going there and talking to them, they've discovered the Bowl of the Winds.
Yeah. They literally, like, there's a part later on where they're like, we didn't even need him. And then I can't even remember. I think it's Elayne who's like, actually,
Elayne points it out,
no, it's only because we went there that this happened and blah, blah, blah. But yes.
It's literally because we confronted him that all of these things cascaded into us finding the kin in the Bowl of the Winds.
Yeah.
And then everybody finds the Bowl of the Winds at the same time.
Yes. Which is just...
Tom, Jewel, and Matt, Nynaeve, everybody's like, oh yeah, it's in this warehouse.
Yep. That's Taviran just being like, hi, big arrow. Big arrow. It's like a video game lighting up the quest for you.
You've been wandering around long enough, and it's like, okay, it's been a while. Bing!
Yeah.
And so once Matt gets the full story, he, of course, is like, okay, so now you all get a massive number of bodyguards.
Yeah.
Okay, we've gotten past this. That's fine. I like this. You can hardly expect we'll find the bowl the first time we try, Nynaeve went on. And it's like, yeah, you're pretty much going to. Now that you've got Matt.
Yeah. But they aren't Taviran. They don't know how this works. Just like, no, you have to keep doing things over and over again. I mean, it's one of the things I sometimes do have to remind myself when, like, not just reading these books, but, any media, that the characters in the media don't know that they're in the story. So they don't know how, like, if something narratively is interesting, then chances are that's where you're going to go. But they don't know that. So sometimes they will fight against the most narratively interesting possibility.
Well, aren't they reading the same book I am? Come on.
Yeah. It's so much more interesting if you take this road instead of that one. So.
I love this where he gets this horrified expression when he agrees to move in, and she thinks it's because of his headache, and it's actually because the dice stop.
Yeah.
And she immediately, like, gets him the basin, because he's like, well, that's a man who's going to sick up. And he's like, he's sick because the dice finally stopped. He's like, what the hell decision did I just make? What about moving in the palace is going to screw me?
Yes. Does he not understand the dice stopping? Do you think, like, the dice stopping just means that something fateful is about to happen? It doesn't always mean bad. It doesn't always mean good. It just means something fateful. And I think the fateful thing here is that he's going to go to the palace and Tuon's there. Or will be there, right? But
a lot of the dice rolls that stop are leading him to Tuon.
Right.
And the prophecy, like, directly or indirectly. There's some stuff with, like, early on with the battles and Couladin and stuff like that. But really, most of there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 6 incidences of the dice in the first 5 books, right? Like, And they're pretty much just the fires of heaven and its battle stuff.
Yeah.
And then almost the rest of them are leading him in A Crown of Swords and Winter's Heart and Crossroads of Twilight to Tuon.
Yeah.
The vast majority of the dice stopping is on his path to becoming the Prince of the Ravens.
Yeah, yeah.
Which makes sense, right? Like, what's the most fateful thing that happens? You become a prince and emperor of one of the most powerful things, empires in the country, right? Of course, that's the fateful thing. Even when it seems silly, like agreeing to move into a palace, well, that's a step on your way to becoming Empire of the Prince of the Ravens.
Yeah.
And Tylan is on that path, right? Like,
yeah. Oh, yes, I see that. Yeah, Tylan. Yeah.
Right. That's
sorry.
Whether or not you agree, that's a good path for him to take. I believe that Tylan is
part of the path.
Is part of the path, and the dice are rolling for her because that leads him to Tuon.
Right, but I don't think that whatever the dice are they just like Ta'Veren being like, hey, like I don't think Tylan is what they were pointing towards. I think they're pointing towards Tuon.
And in a lot of ways, the dice thing it's so weird because it's not like he ever changes his behavior based on
no,
it. It doesn't give any foreshadowing. He never it's the most literary device that Jordan uses.
That's the thing about that is so weird to me. Yeah, when I try and make it make sense, it's not doing anything for him.
No,
it's just there for us. It's for us. Yeah, like it's not like Perrin's smell thing. It's great as a literary device because it allows Perrin to give us information that he shouldn't have, right? But it also helps him. Like he has information that he shouldn't have.
And he changes his behavior based on smells.
But this is Matt is just, I don't even know what it gives him. It gives him nothing except apparently headaches.
Right. So. It's like, hey, something bad's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, not even bad though. Something big's going to happen.
Something big's going to happen. Okay, something big happened.
Yeah.
Now something else. Oh, guess what? Multiple big things are going to happen.
Yeah.
How do I react to this? Right.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I guess gird my loins and make sure I've got my weapon on me. But
that's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe he uses a little bit in the last battle with the gambling and stuff like that. But I don't really feel like it's that relevant.
Yeah.
The only other thing that I really do think the dice point to is the creation of guns. Frequently.
Oh yeah. I can see that. Yeah. That is world altering. That is world altering. Mm-hmm.
I was listening to Knife of Dreams, and there's a line where he has, after he talks to Eludra, and he says, oh, you want the bell makers to make brass lofting tubes. Basically, he figures out cannons.
Yeah.
And he has a dream that night of fire raining down, basically guns raining down the sky, Vietnam, and it's very much when I read that, I picture Jordan in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And in the background, the Dark One's laughing.
Yeah.
And part of me has to wonder, what if the Dark One won the last battle because all he really wanted to do was introduce firearms? And the death and destruction and evil and war that will cause. And that, or not necessarily one, but that was one of his goals. One of his goals was reintroducing guns back into the world. And Matt inventing guns actually... Because it wasn't really... I mean, the cannons were good for the last battle, but they didn't really make that big of a difference.
No, not as much as I thought they would, to be honest. Yeah.
But they were going to make a huge difference in the rest of the world with the Shan Chan and the Aiel and the fighting. And, I mean, guns in the future in the Fourth Age are going to cause all sorts of... the world done with battle... Or the battle done, but the world not done with battle.
Yeah. How long do you... Because, the Age of Legends was a utopia... Partially because the Dark One was completely sealed away, right? And now the Dark One is completely sealed away again. Do you think they are heading towards another utopia? Or do you think that is not part of...
I think you got 7 ages, and it's going to take until the second age rolls around again. This, it's possible that maybe the different ages have different kinds of utopias. That every even ages are utopias and odd ages are going back and returning to the mean. So we know so little. We're in the first age, which you could say would be strife and war.
Yeah.
And then we end up in the Age of Legends, which is, peaceful and great. And they both have technology, just of different kinds. And then you end up in the Third Age, which has no technology and sucks. And then you could end up in the Fourth Age, which has, I don't know, magic technology and is great. And
it's also going to have actual technology because of what ran with the schools.
Right. So then you've got steampunk and all that kind of stuff going on. but there's still war, and then maybe eventually that turns into a utopian society, and that creates the seventh age, and then there's a reboot. I don't know. You know, we know so little about the other ages other than that there are 7.
Yeah. I do, like, that is something I have thought about, partially because I do have like a whole post-book headcanon, and Matt is a massive part of that, because, you know, we know about the Outrigger novels and stuff. So I always, like, in my head, things like that feel like they didn't finish. I feel, in my mind, they were for the books, the next books. Like, that's what they were for.
But you got so much. You've got Dark Friends who haven't been captured. You've got tons of Shadow Spawn who haven't been killed, who need to be hunted down. You got societal problems with LaShawn Chan and slavery. Yeah. You've got Manetheren
coming up. You got the Black Tower that you gotta
the Black Tower and the White Tower and their relationship, and the whole change of power dynamic with the power being cleansed and the prejudice that's going to be up there for a long time. Yeah. Like, there's so many problems that, yes, we've we've won the war, but we haven't solved any of the issues that go along with it. And and now we have guns. Yeah.
Sorry. Again, I took us off, of course, but yeah, it's something I do think about sometimes afterwards.
So as they are leaving, Satelle Anan walks in. As my daughter told me, I've got 2 foolish girls claiming to be Aes Sedai in my inn, and this is ridiculous. Yes. And her confidence, is absolutely from being former Aes Sedai.
Yeah. And, like, she's feeling the offense of you are pretending to be what I was. And, like, but she's feeling it as if she still was. Yeah.
And she loves Matt. She's very protective of Matt. She sees him as a, well-meaning boy. Yeah. I mean, he stayed away from her daughters when she warned him off. So, he's, absolutely sees these women as coming into his life, bringing problems, and is convinced from her own preconceived notions that there's no way Elayne could be Aes Sedai. Yeah.
Sorry. This scene is one of those ones I love it because it's everything I understand. I understand everybody's behavior in this is perfectly logical and it makes absolute sense. I also get very frustrated that there's no, like, you don't get Satelle having to apologize to them for this. Like, that never happens. The fact that she upbraided them and humiliated them, it never happens. And also, there's a whole thing that happens with this storyline where Elayne gets to feel the, people finally accepting who she is as an Aes Sedai, the kin finally accept, like, she gets to, now granted, Nynaeve's having a great experience. She's being married and apparently having the best sex ever at this point, but she doesn't get to have that, like, she's not there for any of that. And I always feel like, I'm sad about that. She was just as, like, upbraided as...
Nynaeve is there when they, like, step in with the Aes Sedai from the Terrasen Palace, and they get their comeuppance with the kin.
I think Nynaeve comes later because she was not there, like, when they when I think she's off being married when that happens, and she comes after Elayne gets. I'd have to double check it, but I'm pretty sure that's the order that it happens. So she's not there in those moments where Elayne gets to feel the. And I think it's meant to be like Elayne gets this really great thing, and Nynaeve gets married, but they're not like. Those are separate things. Like they're not.
Yeah. That's not a victory. Yeah. So, I mean, Nynaeve ends up coming back and goes. Yeah, she has that whole like power struggle with I forget what her name is, but the woman who runs the kin, one of the oldest. Yeah. Who's like who finds her hat for her. Is like, I bet you didn't find my hat, and then finds her hat. Yeah. There's that whole power struggle going on between her, and I could see where maybe Nynaeve not being present for the reveal and the catharsis is what led to that sort of power struggle between the two of them, because she didn't really get her elevated kick the way Elayne did.
Yeah. Because I love this moment, and then when I'm reading it, even though I know what's going to happen, I can't wait for them to figure it out. Yeah, and then totally. It's like it just only half of them get to experience it, and I feel bad. But
Nynaeve figuring out what's going on here is actually one of the most clever
really
things.
Clever.
Yeah, it's
so
figuring
smart.
out that this woman has a connection to an organization, and that an organization of channeling women is, of course, going to know where the bowl of the winds is, so we should pretend and go along with her. Yeah. It's so good. Although she completely misses the fact that this woman used to be Aes Sedai, and that's why she's so confident about everything she says.
Yeah. Which, again, it's a completely understandable thing to miss, in my opinion. Like, at this point, a woman who used to be Aes Sedai and not able to channel, and is running an inn and seems perfectly fine is completely doesn't make any sense.
Elayne frowned, not noticing that she was chewing her lower lip. Slowing. How did an innkeeper in Ebudar know these words? Maybe Satelle Anan had gone to the tower as a girl, though she would not have remained long since she clearly could not channel.
Yeah. She can't even feel the ability in her.
And she's missing the obvious point of someone who's burned out. Because women like that don't live long enough to go on and have inns and children and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, no, it's taking a fact and knowledge, right, that this woman cannot channel, therefore she cannot be an Aes Sedai, and applying that. And it's just, Jordan does such a good job of showing you these facts and you absolutely nodding along with the characters and be like, yeah, you're absolutely wrong.
Yeah.
I understand why, but you are absolutely
wrong. Yeah. Oh, this is so good. Like, it's so, I love when things come together like this. Like, it's when you have all the pieces and they're all like scattered and you don't know how they're going to come together, and then they just fold so nicely into like
so nicely.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
And I like the fact that both you and I were saying, like, we didn't even realize that she was, until we looked it up.
Yeah.
You know, something was up, but we didn't realize that she was formerly. And that I think is what's so good about it, is now reading this, I'm like, oh, he's beating us over the head with it. She's talking about the Amaryllis seat and three sisters and channeling and slowing and, you know, just her dialogue and her confidence and all of that is clearly of someone who is Aes Sedai and is pissed that these girls are imitating that. I did notice that Satelle Anan is actually quite ignorant about the kin, though.
Yeah, she's not. I don't think they let her in completely. I think what probably happened is, you know, when she was burned, she did what everybody does when they leave the towers. Like, apparently they all come to Ebudar and seek out these people somehow, or the kin seeks them out.
Maybe the kin seeks them out.
Yeah. So they probably did that with her because she was a person leaving the tower. And then when they realized that she couldn't channel, we're like, okay. Like, they probably are keeping her at bay. It's because they protect their secrets. So they are probably keeping her at bay a bit. She's not one of us.
Yes. And they discovered her, I think Jasper, her husband, brought her to them. Because she was stilled and ended up in Ebudar, and Jasper found her in the streets, homeless, hungry, and dying.
Okay.
And he brought her home, nursed her back to health, and then they got married. And I think as part of that process, the wise ones talk about it. I can't remember the exact conversation, but they do say...
Yeah, I do remember this now, yeah.
Like, she knows about us, she owes us, and she's protected our secrets. Like, we brought her, we helped save her life, and she has sworn...
To keep it,
to keep our secrets, basically. But they still don't let her know everything.
Yeah.
And one of the ways she says that is there's a group of women, maybe 50 altogether.
Yeah, which is not at all true. Yeah.
And that's what the Aes Sedai think. They think there's a few dozen, maybe 50 of these women. You know, that's not the 1,000. And even this woman, who's formerly Aes Sedai, is sticking with the prejudice of the Aes Sedai.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's like, but they come and go. You know, it's like, well, if they come and go, doesn't that mean there's got to be way more
of them?
50?
Yeah.
But Satelle Anan can't see it because she's just stuck in the
blinders. Yeah. Like the phrase, they take in strays. Sorry, it's just so...
Here's a question. Maybe you can answer this for me. There was no reason the woman had to believe them. Something tickled at that, but she could not say what. I'll give you some context. Release her, Nynaeve, she said, smiling. She truly did feel more well. This is Nynaeve has Satelle Anan wrapped up in flows of air. And Satelle Anan's like, whatever. It must have been terrible to make that journey to Tar Valon only to be turned away. There was no reason the woman had to believe them. Something tickled at that. She could not say what. No reason at all. But if she had made the trip to Tar Valon, maybe she could walk across the Malhara. And the only thing I can think about is maybe she's referencing the oaths, that the woman would have had to believe them if she believed that they had sworn the oaths.
Yeah, that makes sense. But,
And if they had the ageless face?
Yeah. It's weird that is a very good interpretation. The only reason I'm hesitating on it is it seems that's pretty clear. Like, that's not something that would tickle at you. That's just like, I haven't taken the oaths and she knows I haven't taken the oaths. Like, that's, it seems more like this feels like it feels like the whole Saladar thing where Nynaeve couldn't figure out Saladar. Like, even when somebody said it to her, it was something in her brain that was going, like, this feels like something like that, but I don't know what it is. But maybe I'm wrong. Like, I can't figure out what it is.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing is, there's a lot of little things about the Oath Rod as she's figuring out that it shortens lifespans, and that like maybe, and the fact that the Ageless Face comes along with the Oath Rod.
Yeah, which
And
they
so
they don't know.
They don't know that, but I'm trying to think that maybe that's what's, because they are sort of figuring that out with the kin and everything.
Yeah,
and like maybe this is the beginning of that. That like maybe somehow she doesn't believe them because they don't have the Ageless Face, because only Aes Sedai get the Ageless Face,
right?
And the Ageless Face tells you that they can't tell a lie. So that's a bit of like, if they had the Ageless Face, she would know they were Aes Sedai, and she would know they couldn't lie to her.
Yeah,
but that would mean they were Aes Sedai, not just women who could channel.
Exactly.
So that's a stretch.
But even if Satelle Anan is an ex Aes Sedai, the Ageless Face doesn't come immediately.
Right.
So let's imagine that. Egwene had just taken the oaths, and she's like a very, very young Aes Sedai out in the world. Like, that's why they sent really young Aes Sedai to Rand, so that he wouldn't know. They hoped that he wouldn't be able to tell.
But if they had the Ageless Face, then there would be no question.
Yeah, exactly. So, maybe that's what it is. That's the only thing. Yeah, you're right. That's the only thing I can think. I can't think of any other reason for that tickled at her mind.
Well, if you're listening to this and you know exactly, you're like, oh, you idiots, you're missing this obvious thing, please let me know.
Yes.
And I'll let you know if someone lets me know.
Thank you. I'd appreciate that. I just keep scrolling back and forth trying to see if there's something else I'm missing.
Interesting that she says that again, not knowing that much about the kin, she thinks there are Wilders in the kin. There are no Wilders in the kin.
Yeah, no, none at all.
The kin are entirely made up of women who were put out of the tower, and the occasional runaway who I think the runaways who convinced the kin that they were put out of the tower.
Well, there are a few, because there's one that confesses to being a runaway.
Right, but I don't even think the rest of the kin knows she's a runaway.
No, they don't. Yeah. Sorry, just that's one of those moments that makes me laugh, where she thinks she's been caught, and the Aes Sedai are like, "What the fuck?
What? No, we thought you were dead.
Yeah.
You're too old." Yeah. Talk about novices being too old at like 18. She's too old at like 1800.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Not 1800, but 600.
A couple of hundred. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why they are so willing to go back to the tower, that always confused me when Elayne is like, "You can be Aes Sedai," and they were all so enthusiastic about it. Because I for a long time thought a bunch of them were Wilders. But
okay.
They're not.
Yeah, no.
All of these women were women who wanted at one point in their lives to be Aes Sedai.
Yes, and you know that they had to want it because the Aes Sedai stupidly have no recruitment policy.
None.
So everybody who went to the tower did it on purpose. I don't even know how that's one of those things that's just, I feel like it's a hole, because it's such an the world, how do you not think?
I guess some of the kin could have been sparkers that made it that were forced to go to the White Tower.
Yeah.
And then failed out later.
Yeah.
So you could have some people who didn't want to go to the White Tower, but it would be rare.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know a few women who take in the occasional Wilder or runaway, or women who failed her test or accepted for the shawl. They don't take in any Wilders, and they try not to take in any runaways, because runaways will get found. They report them immedially back. So, her Mistress Anan's view of the kin is just off.
It's very limited. Yeah, she knows what she thinks. She knows what the Aes Sedai. Apparently, when they're all raised, they all get this information, which is why Elaine's all pissed. Yeah.
And that's why she hasn't gotten it, because she's not raised. And also, it takes years to convey this information. They haven't even been novices and accepted for 2 years.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
There's a lot of information that takes time to get across.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also that's probably why I was a little confused, because I, again, very much took Satelle Anan's word for it. Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is a mix of Wilders and runaways and blah, 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 blah. I don't understand why they all want to be Aes Sedai.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, because you're wrong. Because Satelle Anan's wrong, and you have to re-examine your assumptions every single time.
Yeah. Every single time.
I like Nynaeve's little deception. We were told to leave the tower, Mr. Anan. And Mr. Anan sees that as them being
put out,
whereas she's just saying, no, we're on a quest because we're Aes Sedai and that sort of thing. So, double speak. It's a great Aes Sedai truth there.
Oh, It's everything, every word is true.
Every word is true.
Yeah.
And then, we just basically have Nynaeve realizing what's going on, Elayne not realizing what's going on, and Nynaeve trying to be like, shut up, let's go, we're gonna follow let's pull this thread.
Yeah. And I find it funny because it is backwards. Like right before this, of course, Nynaeve is the one that's bristling at having to humble herself.
Totally.
And now Nynaeve's like deliberately humbling herself, and Elaine's like, what the, no, fuck, no, I just did that. I don't want to do it again. Like,
but it is one of my favorite things about Nynaeve is that, yes, she's, no, I'm not going to humble myself to Matt. No. And the second, intellectually, she's like, oh, I can get something out of this. She's willing, she's very Aes Sedai in that way. What will Aes Sedai do to get their way? Well, what won't they do?
Yeah.
Nynaeve's the same way, right?
Yeah.
She will humble herself to get what she wants.
It's, it's funny to me. As I said, everything in this conversation just gets, I like it because everybody, I don't know how to say this without sounding really weird, but everybody is doing exactly what they would do. Like all the characters are behaving like themselves in a very real way, and I like it.
And that's so hard to write.
Yeah.
It's so hard. And I think that's one of the reasons why Jordan is so good, is these characters, both the POV writing and characters doing what, the typical D&D, well, it's what my character would do, right? Like, a lot of times it's used for an excuse for shitty behavior, but here Jordan actually does write characters that do what his characters would do. And yeah, sometimes it is shitty behavior, but a lot of times it's not.
It's just their behavior.
Their behavior.
Like what I was saying, like when they were promising those things, what bothered me when they were making those promises was mostly that you're making promises that I know you. Like, I know you, Nynaeve. You're not going to be able to keep this promise. Don't say this. Like, like that's dumb. Don't promise something you can't do. So, yeah.
And who ends up being more Nynaeve? Who ends up being more Aes Sedai than Nynaeve?
I mean, Nynaeve is the best of the Aes Sedai, though. Like, she is what, in my opinion, the Aes Sedai should be. Like, she's, an Aes Sedai who is seeing her gifts as, like, her ability to channel, not just as this is a really cool thing I can do. This is a really cool thing I can do that can help people.
It's like when she stops in the middle of what she's doing to heal a sick child.
Yeah.
That's her priority.
Yeah.
And that's what all the Yellows should be doing.
Yeah. There's a lot of places where I feel like the Aes Sedai just gave up or failed. And one of them is things like, men have to be gentled. They have to be gentled for the safety of the world. Absolutely. For the past 3,000 years, somebody should have been working on this, not just like cleansing the taint, but like, okay, we accept that the taint is there. These men die after we gentle them. We should spend this 3,000 years trying to see if we can fix that problem. Like,
and I'll go back to the Black Ajah influence, right?
Exactly.
Like there's a contingent inside the party that not only is conservative and doesn't want to make changes, but is actively working to sabotage any forward progress the tower makes. Yeah,
is my soul is a brown Ajah, and it just bothers me that the research stopped. Like, you don't just give up on something like that.
Well, and my soul is white, and the fact that there's so many obviously logical things that they should be addressing, and given the facts that they have, there should be some very logical conclusions that they should be coming to, and how to fight the Dark One, and how to distribute their forces, and how to better themselves, and how to recruit, and how to all the things that the black. I feel like the white Ajah should be the logical counter to the black, because everything the black does is illogical and bad.
Yeah, meant to stir up chaos and
yeah, exactly. And the white should be putting things back into order, making things logical, keeping things running. Keep the trains running on time.
Yeah.
Instead of letting the Lord of Chaos rule.
Yeah, exactly.
So, we can talk about how all the Ajahs have failed.
Yes. Yes.
One might say that's the defining characteristic of the modern Ajah, is that they have failed in the task they were
assigned
defined.
Or given, that they gave themselves. Yeah. Yeah.
Define themselves by,
Yeah.
And I think I'm just going to read the last couple paragraphs from
sure.
Trust Me, Elayne, and read us out. Trust me, Elayne, Nynaeve said, which Elayne would have had an easier time of if she had any notion of what the woman was up to. Still, she did trust her. Mostly. A small sacrifice, she muttered. Aes Sedai did go without their rings when the need arose, and she had too, while passing for a sister. But it was hers by right now. Removing that band of gold almost hurt, physically. Talk to your friend. Talk to your friend, child. That works both ways. The Anan woman told Nynaeve impatiently. Renee Corley won't put up with all this sulky pouting, and if you make me waste my morning for nothing, come along. It's lucky for you I like Lord Matt. Elayne held on to cool composure by a fingernail. Sulky pouting? When she had the chance, she was going to kick Nynaeve where it hurt.
Elaine's being sulky. Yes. Yep. Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. it's great. It's great. Yeah.
And then I'm looking forward to having them being dragged into every inn and being called hussies in front of everybody.
That part, like, it's because it gets so extreme that makes me feel like I really wish Nynaeve had been there for the moment of let's all, like, because it does, because it's not just like this moment where Nynaeve willingly, okay, I'm gonna do this, and then it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. But she's humiliated and then humiliated, like, over and over and over again. I want the catharsis for her.
She commits to the humiliation, but with no idea how bad it's gonna get.
Exactly.
And the whole, like, and half the reason why they're probably like, ooh, the Strong Chanter here is because of that.
Yes!
Like, they never have to go back into that city again, thank God.
Yeah.
We're fleeing.
Yes. A city where everybody thinks we're hussies. So.
I also imagine that's why they jumped on, there's a whole manipulation to get the kin to take them to the farm. Like, all of that, getting out of the city. I absolutely imagine that had a lot to do with getting away from this.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised. Because, it's humiliating. It's really embarrassing. So.
Jenny, thank you so much. This has been a wonderful night. We recorded 2 episodes, and I just had a blast talking with you. Just such great content. I really, really appreciate you coming on to the What Spoilers podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope I didn't take you off on too many tangents.
No, never. The tangents are the best part. That's what I love.
All right,
we go through in linear order to try and find the tangents. That's really what we're looking for.
Okay, all right. That's
so no, that was just wonderful. That's such great content.
I enjoy their walk to the headsman. They walk to Matt's room like they're going to their deaths.
There's a little less to this chapter than the previous one, I think.
Yeah.
It's by the way, have I showed you this magic?
Ooh. How? Do you have an actual green screen?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Nope.
Okay.
I got a little fold. There's a fold.
Yes.
So I'm just sticking my arm behind the fold.
Okay, I understand. Okay. See, I just have a white background, so
it's just a green sheet that's hung. I'll show you for a second just so you can get it.
Okay. Screen. You look like a streamer when you do that.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or support us on Patreon. Is that good enough?